The outpost on Arcturus VII wasn't supposed to be a daycare center for apex predators. But Mira Solon had learned long ago that the universe rarely consulted human expectations before throwing curveballs. She sat cross-legged near the observation deck's viewport, ostensibly reviewing supply manifests on her datapad. The twin suns cast amber light across the crystalline plains beyond, painting shadows that danced like living things. But Mira's attention wasn't on the scenery or her work. She was acutely aware of the tiny sounds behind her, the whisper of claws on metal flooring, the barely audible breathing of something trying very hard to be stealthy. The Kinthari were the galaxy's most feared hunters. 8 feet tall, when fully grown, with obsidian scales that could deflect plasma fire, and fangs that could pierce starship hull plating. Their empire had conquered 17 star systems before humanity even achieved faster-than-light travel. They were death incarnate, nightmare fuel for 1,000 species, which made the current situation all the more absurd. Mira felt the first tentative tug at her thermal coat. She didn't react. Her peripheral vision caught a glimpse of small, clawed fingers barely the size of a human child's gripping the fabric's edge. The coat was oversized, a necessity in the outpost's perpetually malfunctioning climate control system, and it pooled around her like a makeshift tent. Another tug, more insistent this time. Rannick, she thought. The little troublemaker was always the bold one. The Kinthari cub's mother, Ambassador Velthra, had arrived 3 weeks ago for diplomatic negotiations. The ambassador was everything the species' reputation promised: imposing, dangerous, with eyes that calculated threat assessments in microseconds. But she'd also brought her juvenile offspring. And that's where human xenobiologists had gotten their first real surprise about Kinthari development. The cubs weren't like human children. They possessed hunting instincts from birth, could track heat signatures through walls, and had enough strength in their jaws to snap durasteel rods. But they were still children in the ways that mattered: curious, playful, and apparently prone to treating the strange, furless aliens as climbing structures. Mira felt Rannick slip beneath the coat's hem, his scales surprisingly warm against her side. She kept her breathing steady, her eyes fixed on the datapad. The protocol manuals were very clear. Kinthari cubs choosing to approach a member of another species voluntarily was an extraordinary sign of trust. Acknowledging their presence before they were ready could trigger defensive instincts, turning a peaceful encounter into a bloodbath. So she waited. A second set of movements announced Rannick's sibling's arrival. The other cub was smaller, more cautious, but eventually followed its brother's lead. Mira felt the additional weight settle against her other side, 2 small predators arranging themselves in the space between her body and the coat's generous fabric. They were warm, remarkably so. Kinthari ran hot, their metabolisms designed for their scorching homeworld. The cubs radiated heat like tiny furnaces. And despite the outpost's chill, Mira found the sensation oddly comforting. Minutes passed. The cubs shifted occasionally, finding comfortable positions. Mira caught glimpses of their bioluminescent markings, swirling patterns that glowed faintly across their scales, unique as human fingerprints. Rannick's were blue-violet, his siblings more green-tinted. She wondered what Ambassador Velthra would think if she saw this. The Kinthari leader had been skeptical of humans from the start, viewing them as soft creatures who'd somehow stumbled into galactic politics through sheer dumb luck. Too fragile, she'd said during one tense negotiation session. Too weak to survive without their machines. But here were her children, seeking warmth and safety from one of those weak, fragile humans. Rannick made a sound something between a purr and a growl, but small and sleepy. His sibling echoed it moments later. Mira felt their breathing slow, their bodies growing heavier as sleep crept over them. The datapad's screen had long since dimmed from inactivity, but she didn't move to reactivate it. The observation deck's door hissed open. Mira's eyes flicked up to see Ambassador Velthra enter, her massive frame filling the doorway. The Kinthari's predatory gaze swept the room, stopping when it found Mira. For a long moment, neither moved. Velthra's nostril slits flared, scenting her offspring's location. Her eyes narrowed, and Mira prepared herself for whatever came next. A reprimand, perhaps, or worse, an accusation of attempted abduction. The ambassador took 3 silent steps forward, her movements impossibly quiet for something so large. Then she saw them. The cubs were fully visible now in their sleep, scales glimmering softly in the viewport's light. Rannick had curled into a tight ball against Mira's ribs. One small paw stretched across her stomach. His sibling had its snout tucked under Rannick's tail, both creating a tangled pile of predator infant. Something shifted in Velthra's expression, a softening around the eyes that Mira had never seen before. The ambassador lowered herself into a crouch, bringing her massive head level with Mira's position. When she spoke, her voice was barely above a whisper, translated through Mira's neural implant. "They chose you." Mira nodded slowly, keeping her own voice low. "I didn't do anything. They just..." "No." Velthra's eyes fixed on hers with an intensity that sent instinctive warning signals down Mira's spine. "You did everything correctly. You stayed still. You did not presume. You did not intrude. You simply were present." The ambassador reached out one massive claw, gently stroking Rannick's head. The cub stirred slightly, but didn't wake. "Among my people," Velthra continued. "This is how we recognize the worthy, not by strength or cunning, but by who the young ones choose to trust." She pulled her claw back, studying Mira with new consideration. "Perhaps we were wrong about humans. Perhaps you are not weak. Perhaps you are, simply, different kinds of strong." Mira felt Rannick shift against her, heard his sleepy purr growl resume. Outside, the twin suns continued their descent, painting the world in shades of amber and gold. "They're welcome anytime," Mira said softly. Velthra's lips pulled back, revealing rows of crystalline teeth, a Kinthari smile. "I suspect, Mira Solon, that this changes much between our peoples." As the ambassador stood and moved silently toward the door, Mira settled back, careful not to disturb her small charges. Through the viewport, stars began appearing in the darkening sky, countless points of light, representing countless worlds, countless species, countless possibilities. And here, on a cold outpost on the edge of known space, 2 predator cubs slept peacefully under a human's coat, dreaming whatever dreams small hunters dream, while the galaxy turned overhead. Retry.